You think you know Northwood High. Brick walls, sun-faded banners, the constant hum of AC units battling the relentless Jacksonville heat. But the school breathes differently when it's empty, and Ezra knew its night breath intimately. Ezra wasn't your typical social butterfly. Quiet, artistic, always sketching in the margins of their notebooks. They were the kind of person who volunteered for the late-night shifts with the drama club, meticulously painting backdrops for the upcoming fall play. It was better than being home, sometimes, and the school, unpopulated, offered a strange, almost peaceful sanctuary. Almost, it started subtly, as these things always do. A flicker in the auditorium's grand but ancient stage lights when no one was near the dimmer board. A sudden, inexplicable drop in temperature in the bustling main hall, despite the Florida humidity practically dripping from the ceilings outside. Ezra, focused on layering paint onto a paper match tree, would shrug it off. Old wiring, drafts, the building settling. But then came the whispers, faint, like dry leaves rustling just outside an open window. Not words, not at first. Just a low, continuous murmur that seemed to drift from the empty classrooms lining the drama wing. Ezra would pause, paintbrush mid-air, straining to hear. Nothing, just the hum of the old fluorescent lights and the distant chirping of crickets outside. One Tuesday night, it was particularly late. Midnight had long passed. The final backdrop was nearly done. Ezra was alone, or at least they thought they were. A sudden, sharp clatter echoed from the props storage room backstage. It sounded like a stack of metal chairs hitting the floor. Ezra's heart hammered against their ribs. "Hello," they called out, voice surprisingly steady. No response, hesitantly. Flashlight app on their phone illuminating the dusty gloom, Ezra pushed open the heavy double doors to the props room. The air was thick with the smell of old wood and forgotten costumes. Nothing, not a single chair out of place. The room was exactly as they'd left it. A shiver, colder than the AC, traced its way down Ezra's spine. Just my imagination, Ezra thought, trying to convince themselves. Sleep deprivation, but the feeling of being watched intensified. You know that prickle on the back of your neck? That feeling that someone is standing right behind you, even when you're alone in a perfectly safe space. Ezra felt it constantly. Turning around quickly often yielded nothing but the empty expanse of the auditorium seats. Their dark shapes looming like silent watchers. One night, distracted by the unnerving silence, Ezra knocked over a paint can. It splattered across the floor. Grabbing a rag, they knelt to clean it, their gaze falling on something half-hidden under a stack of old yearbook boxes. It was a small, crudely carved wooden bird, missing an eye, its wings spread as if in permanent flight. It looked ancient, almost decomposed. Strange, Ezra had never seen it before. They picked it up as their fingers closed around the rough wood. A chill seeped into their bones, an intense cold that felt like liquid ice. A faint, high-pitched giggle seemed to float from the darkened stage, followed by a mournful, drawn-out sigh. The air thickened, heavy and suffocating. Ezra dropped the bird as if scalded. It landed with a soft thud. That was the night Ezra heard the stories. The whispering spectre of Northwood, an urban legend passed down for generations. A girl, Sarah, who disappeared from the school in the late 70s. They said she loved to carve. They said she carved birds. And they said if you were ever alone enough, silent enough, you could hear her. And sometimes, you could see her. Ezra started noticing things. The lights in the drama wing didn't just flicker. They pulsed, almost rhythmically, as if breathing. The murmurs from the classrooms sometimes coalesced into distinct, chilling words. Find me, alone, mine. Then came the footsteps. Light, almost skipping footsteps, moving through the main hall when Ezra was in the auditorium. They'd always stop right outside the large wooden double doors. Ezra would hold their breath, gripping their paintbrush like a weapon. The footsteps would linger, then slowly, agonizingly, recede into the darkness. One night, Ezra was packing up, the last strokes of paint done. The school was darker than usual. A few sections of lights seemed to have gone out entirely. A deep, unsettling moan vibrated through the floorboards. It wasn't human, not exactly. It was too long, too drawn out, like the sound of a building in pain. Ezra scrambled for their backpack, fumbling with the zipper. That's when the light over the stage, the only one still on, began to swing violently. Back and forth, casting massive, distorted shadows that danced like grotesque figures across the stage. And in one of those shadows, for a split second, Ezra saw it, a figure, small, hunched, with stringy dark hair obscuring its face. It stood at the edge of the stage, almost directly under the swinging light. It wasn't solid, but a ripple in the air, a distortion of light and shadow, radiating in cold so profound it felt like a black hole had opened in the room. Ezra froze. Every instinct screamed run, but their feet were rooted. The whispering filled the auditorium, louder now, a cacophony of distorted voices, all whispering one word, mine. Then the swinging light stopped, abruptly. The figure was gone. But from the main hall, a single, high-pitched giggle echoed. Closer this time, much, much closer. Ezra didn't think. They ran, they burst through the double doors, tearing through the deserted main hall. The exit was in sight. But as they sprinted past the trophy cases, the glass rattled violently, and the old school bell above the principal's office began to clang, a slow, mournful, relentless tolling, each ring shaking the very foundation of the building. The air grew frigid. Ezra could see their own breath in the reflection of a dark window. Just for a moment, you might have seen it too. Not Ezra's reflection, but a gaunt, pale face with vacant, sunken eyes staring back from behind their own shoulder. Ezra didn't look back. They threw open the heavy main doors, spilling out into the humid Jacksonville night, gasping for air that felt clean, safe. They didn't stop running until they were miles away, heart threatening to tear through their chest. Ezra never went back to Northwood High after dark, not even for the fall play. They finished their senior year, always feeling the lingering chill, always glancing over their shoulder. And what about that little wooden bird? Ezra swore they dropped it back in the props room. But a few weeks ago, while emptying an old backpack they hadn't touched since that night, something small and rough shifted at the very bottom. It was the bird, the carved wind-eyed wooden bird. And Ezra could swear, just for a moment, they heard a faint, high-pitched giggle from the empty corner of their room. So, tell me, do you still think your school is just brick and mortar when the last bell rings? Or does something else wake up when the lights go out? What would you do if you were Ezra? Let me know in the comments below. And remember, sometimes the scariest stories aren't just stories at all. Good night.